Here we go. Well, welcome to a very special event today. Local Authors Book Group is featuring a sort of an author showcase, and we're hoping to discover a lot of wonderful books that people can read. Some will be available at Ante, some may not, but that can change over the future too. So we're kind of going to go through the screen here. We've got a number of people who have something to share with us. I think Robert, I hope he's not too skittery, because I think he's the first one I'm going to pick on today. And what I would like you to do is at some point show the cover of your book that you want to talk about, if you can. You can mention if you have a series, or you could mention how many books you've written and put out so far, anything like that. But we do want to only take a few minutes for each person. So keep bear that in mind. So how about you, Robert? And also, while you're at it, I have a special question I would like you to answer, which is, why did you want to write this book? People's answers are going to be different, I know. So thank you. And Robert?
Well, hello, group. This is my first meeting. I've just relocated from Florida to Spokane. Anyway, I wrote a book that's self-published. Right now, it's on Amazon. I have talked to Carrie, and we're going to stick a couple copies in Auntie's. But the book cover looks like this.
Right.
It is the worst title in the world. It's called Res Ipsa Loquitur. And it has to do with it's a memoir. It has to do with my very sort of unusual path from being a completely unmotivated, spoiled little child to becoming an attorney and helping others, which is what the intent. And the title, Res Ipsa Loquitur, is just a legal title that means you know it when you see it. So I used it. I know, like I said, from a marketing standpoint, it's horrible. But anyway, I like it. And so, and it like I said, it's humorous. It's intended to be very light. It's about 150 pages, 30,000 words. I've never written anything before other than briefs, court briefs, and they were longer than this. So the hardest part was not wandering off and using a lot of legalese, which came naturally after 35 years of practicing law. And it's just why I wrote it, honestly, that was so that my family would know I wasn't as boring a person as they thought I was, since I was called an elder law attorney and nobody knew what that even meant. So I figured I'd, stick something in a book and give them something to smile at if I'm not around, and they could figure out maybe I'm not so boring after all.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
But that's it.
Are you able to type into the chat? Because you could put the title in there, and if you have,
you know what? I don't know.
And on your screen below, if you're on, you can open up the chat.
Oh, yes, I see a chat. Yes.
Here you go. Thank you, Steve. Steve just typed something in there. If you have a website or anything like that, you can type that in there as well. And then we'll have that to fall back on. And anyone at any time, you can type into the chat if you'd like. Well, that's wonderful, Robert. I look forward to including you on our website and seeing what we can do to help you out. I'm glad that Carrie is willing to look at your book. Usually, if they're fairly well written, he will consider it. So,
well, I do again. It's all new to me. So,
well, you maybe new, but you're gonna, I think, be a star. Yes.
Yeah.
You shall
be nice.
Let's see. Jay, I don't think has ever published a book yet. Did you have something you want to mention?
Nope, I'm just still crunching away on mine. I'm probably at least a year out.
Okay. Well, very nice of you to come today. I appreciate that.
Yeah, just wanted to see what's going on out here.
Yeah, see how it's done, right?
Yep. Exactly.
Okay. How about you, Kathy? You're muted. There you go.
Okay, now I'm unmuted.
Yeah.
Yes, thanks for this opportunity. So you can see well, behind me here, the book.
Yeah.
Oops, you can't see it when you use one of these screens. But my book is Keep Walking, Your Heart Will Catch Up. It's about my walk on the Camino de Santiago, which is the Way of St. James. It's a pilgrimage trail across northern Spain. It runs 483 miles across the country. And I went on it when I was 64 after my husband had passed away, kind of searching for what am I going to do now with this last third of my life. And it turned out to be a real spiritual journey, a healing journey for me. And actually, so I went in search of direction, what to do. What I found was I already knew, I've known all my life since I was little, I wanted to be a writer and an author. And so when I came back, then this was my first step towards that, writing this book. And also to inspire others. I've heard from several people, usually older women who've had some change and loss in their life, said they felt inspired. If I could do that, well, then they could do what was ahead of them also. And so I enjoy that. And I'm working on a second book, which will be out hopefully late spring. And my book, it is available. I know I had copies at Auntie's. I haven't checked in to see how that's done, if they're still there. And also it's on my website. I'll put that in the chat box, and it's available through Amazon or different bookstores.
Thank you, Kathy. I'm going to jump down just below her on my screen to Kalela and ask you, I know I surprised you, didn't I? And if you want to unmute and tell us about your book.
So my book's behind me. It's Clara's Journey. It's set to be published. The publication date is going to be June 2nd of this year, so it's coming up. I'm going to be launching a Kickstarter at the end of the month. So my launch date will be either late February or early March. And I'm really excited because I just got the draft of my book's trailer. So if I could share screen, I'll show you my draft. I mean, there's still changes that we're going to do, but if you want 60 seconds of Clara's journey, we can do that.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I'm going to share screen. And it's still got watermarks and stuff in here. So can you now see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yep.
Okay, hopefully you'll be able to hear it as well, but here we go. Were you able to see that?
We could see it. We could not hear anything.
Oh, that's so sad because it had great audio.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how to stop sharing though.
Just hit the share screen again.
Did that take care of it?
Oh,
We see a tree.
Nope.
yeah.
It doesn't. Oh, let's see what it got. It says you are sharing screen. Can somebody else share? I don't know how to undo it.
Well, let's see here.
Oh, it has an option to share sound too, if we want to try again.
Oh, maybe if we have some time at the end, we can do that.
Yeah, I don't know how to
Revisit it.
unshare.
But let's see here.
There it is. I found it. Stop share.
There you go.
All right.
That was great. Yeah, and the reason that your book is showing up to us backwards is because you haven't done, there's somewhere when you do your.
Oh, yeah, I have to reverse it.
Yeah, right. There you go. Wonderful. And I may be coming to you for a program later in the year on Kickstarter and
Okay.
on how you put, maybe we'll do one on the video stuff, creating your, you know, I've seen, that seems to be a very popular thing for at least the nationals to do these days. They do the little, like you say, it's 1 minute showing you the book. So, okay, well, maybe we can try it again later on. Sue, I know you haven't published any books. She's a reader. Okay, folks, she's the one that you want to impress. So, and she's going to do her knitting while she listens to us. So we'll move on to Steve Lalonde, and which I have been very much enjoying his regular newsletter that he sends out. So if you can, I don't know if you want to put your website up there, Steve, and then people can go and check into that. And but anyway, I know that you've got things to share with us, or at least one recent book. How do you feel about moving on with that?
Sure. The book that I'm going to talk about is INWG, which is the most recent of a series of historical novels. And INWG is a Nubian woman. The books, all three of the books that are written so far, and the one that I'm working on now, take place around 600 BC, centered in Greece, but also in Egypt, Nubia, and points east to the end of the Black Sea and west to Sicily. So it's a maritime trade-based storyline. Starts with the first book is Sinan of Kira, and then that was followed by Mentu the Nubian, and then into INWG. The one I'm writing now is called Strymon, who is another character in the series. So the reason why I write this, I taught classical mythology over a 4-decade period and just loved that time period, and thoroughly interested in finding out as much more as I can. I'm very well squared away on Greece, but I have had to do a lot of learning around Egypt and Nubia. And there's not a lot around Nubia, but quite a bit obviously around Egypt. And the any Nubian history there is basically embedded in the Greek, or I'm sorry, in the Egyptian history, etc. So that's basically what I'm doing at this point. INWG is a woman who, just a quick statement here, she is a woman who lived in a very small village with her husband, Tamid, and the village is raided by a group of Egyptian men who are looking to take slaves. They kill all of the adults except for INWG. She's wounded but doesn't die. And they take her son, Mentu, to be taken into slavery along with the rest of the children of the village. INWG is rescued by 2 girls who managed to hide during the raid, and they grow up with her basically, and the 3 of them become warriors, which is common in the Nubian tradition, women warriors, even to the extent that the Nubians for a time ruled Egypt, and even one of the Nubian women was a pharaoh. So there's a great deal of that. I call them historical novels. They're very historical in terms of the culture, events, some of the events around the time, and as much as I can on the description of the sites, etc. There is one historical character who appears in the books, all 4 of them, and that is Sappho, the poet and philosopher from the island of Lesbos. And she figures into the storyline reasonably accurately. Had to do some creative license, or take some creative license with some of the timeline materials, but basically that's it. I really enjoy writing in this particular venue. I have only done 2 other books before that. One was a collection of my poetry, and the other was a contemporary novel based in Spokane area around 1996.
Wonderful.
So those are the 5 books that I've published so far. The first 2 books, the poetry book and the Phoenix Gift, are available on Amazon, and they were in Antes and eventually sold out. The other books are only available from my marketing website, and I put that in the chat right first thing, and I'll post it again just because it might not have. There we go. So I just posted it. It's uranianpublishing.com.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Are your books standalone or should they be read in order?
The best reading experience, in my opinion, is to read them in order, Sign-In followed by Mentu. Sign-In and Mentu are definitely serial. They go from Sign-In into Mentu, etc. The Anisi book, however, bridges both of them, starts before the 2 books and goes past the 2 books, as is the case with Strymon as well. So I'm writing those. They're serial, but they also are standalone. So Anisi and Strymon probably stand alone. Sign-In would stand alone. Mentu probably could be standalone as well, but I think you would lose some of the richness of the background that is in Sign-In.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
Mhm.
Joyce, did you want to talk about your memoir?
Yes, mine's a fictional memoir, and my book is about my adoption. And the twist to it is that my adopted father was a cold-blooded murderer. And the reason I hope people read it is that they can figure out that they can really break out of their habit that their father taught them and stand on their own with a good, strong backbone. And mine is, I don't know if you can see it here. Can you see it?
Yeah.
There.
Yeah.
I know your secrets, Dad. And on the top, it has forgiveness is the key. And that is the key to break away from their hold on you.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. Julie, how about you? Oh, wait a minute. Chris, did you have a question? Or is that just?
Yes. Well, I'm curious, Joyce, why you chose to write a fictional memoir.
Well, if I didn't, my brother would sue me.
No. Then I think next up is Julie Bergman. And if you unmute, do you have anything to share with us?
I do. Hi, everybody. I'm Julie Bergman. I am working on my first series. I'm retired military and all of my books are based in the military. So my first one is The Fatal Creation. Starts out with Evelyn Mac McGregor. She is the protagonist who lands her first murder investigation on Fairchild and then stumbles onto a serial killer who's operating inside the military. The next book moves into Joint Base Lewis McChord. It's The Fatal Couple. And that one is, she makes a name for herself. She goes down to Joint Base to run an investigation down there and stumbles upon 2 people that are killing military members. So, and then I just finished the 3rd book. It is coming out soon. I don't have it yet, but it comes out on February 14th. It's called The Fatal Family Affair. It is about her going down to Holloman Air Force Base in New Mexico, where she has to go toe-to-toe with her family. And her mother is in Mexico and is a drug lord and is using military members as drug mules. So it's just lots of fun. After retirement, I'm just trying to figure out what I want to do, and I love to write. So I am writing novels.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
That sounds awesome. Do you have a buy link you could put in the chat?
Oh, absolutely. Yes,
That
I will
sounds
drop mine.
intriguing to me.
Oh, thank you. I hope you like them. You'll have to let me know what you think.
And what was the title of the first one again? The Fatal?
The Fatal Creation is the first one.
Yeah, go ahead and
And then-
put all that information in the chat, and that way.
Oh,
we
absolutely. Yeah,
capture
I will drop it in the chat. And I'm not at Annie's yet, but I am hoping to get there someday soon.
Cool. Cool. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. We expect to hear a lot more from you in the future. Another one of our
Yes,
stars.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. Joan, I'm going to jump over to you because everything shifted, and I want to make sure that I get everybody here. You had your book about your grandfather, or was it grandfather or great grandfather?
My great grandfather.
Right.
It's called The Freedom Chaser. That's a cover. And it's an inspirational story of immigrant survival. And it was a finalist for the PNWA's Nancy Pearl Book Award in 2020. And the reason I wrote this book is I did 20 years of researching my family history before Ancestry.com was invented. And I also did research trips for this book to Poland, Germany, New York City, Chicago, and Kansas. And the book falls under the category of family life fiction. At first, I was marketing it under historical fiction, and it didn't do very well. So I changed it to family life fiction, which it falls better under that. And the book, my editor was Helga Scheer, who has a PhD in literature. And she was also a former executive editor at Random House in New York.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
And it's available at Aunties and also Amazon.
Great. Great. And for those of you, if you haven't been to our website yet, it's I'll put it in the chat too, but it is INWG-guild.com. And I was going to say that now because most of many of these people here, in particular Joan, have their book kind of posted in there, and they're on our author's website page. So if you go there, you can actually see many of the listings for these people that you're hearing about today. So thanks, Joan. Anything else you wanted to add to that?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate you being here today. And Kathy is a reader and not a published person. So we will skip over to Chris Beaker.
Hello, everyone. I have, well, it's just nice to see so many local authors. I have 2 books which I self-published, and they are available at Aunties and Amazon, but I like to support local. So if you do purchase them, please purchase them locally at Aunties or the Well-Read Moose in Coeur d'Alene. My first book is called Murder at Manitou, and the second one is Blood on Bloomsday. And these are comedic murder mysteries, and they are set here in Spokane with the backdrop of some of our iconic events like the Lilac Festival, garden tours, and then Bloomsday. And they have, so it's kind of unusual in the sense that there are a lot of plant puns, particularly. The book started when I was inspired to write about a detective named Rex Begonia, and they've taken off from there. I really had only intended to write the first book, Murder at Manitou, but I had a lot of people ask for more, and so I wrote Blood on Bloomsday, and now I'm working on Horror at Hoop Fest. So that will be the third one in this comedic murder mystery series.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
They're fun.
looking forward to it. Yeah. When is that? You're working on that one now, right? How long is
Ye-
you project when you think it'll be, what, a year from now or less?
I'm hoping less, but at most a year from now.
Okay.
I'm about a third of the way through.
Okay, well, I won't hold my breath then. I'll just look forward to it because I would croak if I tried to do that. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it. And anything you
welcome.
want to share, you can type in the chat if you'd like at any time.
Okay.
And that brings us to Herbert. Herbert, I met Herbert when he connected because of the Sandpoint Writers on the Lake. And he's kind of the guy that sends out notices, and it's got a thing for people that are looking to participate in a, oh dear, my brain died. But be able to send things out every 2 weeks. Some of them meet in person over at the library in Sandpoint, but you can also join via Zoom, and it's on Saturday mornings, and it's for sharing critique experiences. So you can send your thing to him. He will send it out to everybody, or people on the list can send things to each other. So, but Herbert, I think you've got something to share with us, don't you? You've been getting some reviews.
Oh, you've seen those?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is kind of convoluted because I've actually done 5 books in a year and a half. It started out kind of a family history, which I call fiction because, you know, when you put dialogue in, you can't. But anyhow, so that started out, these actually took me 10 years to research. It's a history of extended family of Mennonites living in Ukraine.
Oh.
And German Mennonites living in Ukraine. It's the first book starts in mid 1890s and goes to 1922 through the revolution and World War I and stuff. And then and the beginnings of immigration to get out of there because the empire is collapsing. And then the second book picks up in early 1922 and goes to 1960s. Most of the family by now is in North America, but 2 sisters remain behind in Ukraine. And they go through Holodomor, World War II, gulags, concentration camps, displaced persons camps and stuff. So anyhow, so I actually had these written and we're hunting for agents. And while I was on the agent hunt, I actually wrote another book and put it out. And of course, I hated the publishers. So that's within the last year, the amount of time it took to get that book published, I wrote a sequel to it. And it came out a month after the first book came out. I almost beat it to the bookshelves. And that's my Love, Loss, and Honor series. And I've actually got, the first one's about a modern day nurse practitioner who's kind of spoiled-ish, makes some really bad decisions. And the second half of the book, in the middle of it, is about a parallel lady in 1572 Antwerp who wakes up with amnesia and becomes basically a covert female physician. And this whole 16th century part of this book is completely historically accurate. Every person in it whose whole complete name I used is an actual historical figure. Everybody mentioned in it. And the reason the 16th century, this lady gets taken in by a bunch of Mennonites, which are early Mennonites, which are still being persecuted by the Catholics. And of course, the Lutherans picked up the mantle about then and started persecuting any Anabaptists at the same time. And so that's this book. And the selfish lady in the modern era versus the really pristine lady in the 1600s and the lessons they learned. The whole series is about making mistakes and living or dying with the consequences. The second volume of the series, with this one, takes place in the Palouse. She moves the nurse lady becomes a widow and she moves her family to the Palouse and starts a clinic. And then the blacksmith from the first book in the 1600s comes to time travels to modern times and tries to figure out how to deal with a world 440 years in his future. And he becomes a cowboy in the Palouse, and they end up living only a few miles apart, and they come back together. And that's this book. And of course, there's serial killers that are involved in it. You have to have those. And the third volume of that it's going to be a 4-book series, is actually already been through the editors, and I'm designing the cover right now. So it should be out in a month and a half. It's called Betrayal. And it's her son and the neighbor girl. And the whole series is about, it deals with Stockholm syndrome and a few other things, because they have a big breakup and he makes mistakes. And we have Greek and Turkish crime lords. We we have a little bit of time travel in that too. So anyhow, that's the third volume. And the fourth volume, I'm actually a couple thousand words into now, is going to have, Eastern Washington, Montana Hutterites mixed in with all the Palouse cowboys and stuff. So.
All right. Well, Herbert, do you have access to the chat column?
Yes, I do. It's right there.
Because you have a question for you in there. So maybe you can type in that. If Joan wants to know what the title of the first book you mentioned was.
I can actually put my website on there, which has got all the books on it.
Go ahead and do that. And also, you know,
I mean,
and then we will move over to Tardy. Have you put it in there yet, or doing it now?
Hello.
Hi, Tarja.
Hi, hello. Friends and family call me Tara. If you are wanting to call me Tarja or Daria, or I get many versions, but
I call you Nevada.
Yeah, that's the way I sometimes spell it for people. I just say Nevada, but put an L in there.
So
hello. I'm very impressed with all the talent locally. This is really amazing, and I'm really happy to be here today. Thank you for inviting me, Linda.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing all these wonderful books, and yes, I'm going to go find some of them for sure. So today I do have a little guy with me, so I did give him a piece of apple there, and he's chewing on it. So hopefully he'll be okay with my presentation. So. Okay, so may I launch, Linda?
Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. I'm a picture book writer for children, and I'm a mother of a large family, and I'm a grandmother of a bunch of little kids, and littles are very much a part of my life. They have been for a long, long time. So my 2 books that I have self-published, I did not really do the query route because I felt the emotional part of it was a little too tricky, and then also I needed to get these books out because they have a personal connection. The first book that I wrote really reflects on my immigrant childhood. I am an immigrant child, or was an immigrant child, in 3 continents. I was born in Finland, and we immigrated to Australia, from Australia to Finland, from Finland to Canada, and then into the United States. All these countries have very different culture. All these countries, even if they speak English, their English is very different. And for me, there was definitely a level of integration into these cultures and into these countries, and it was a process. And so Philip Woke Up on Christmas Eve is a book that kind of reflects my immigrant childhood, and it's my debut book, which quite often debut books are that the author is
Hold it up again, but not too close to the camera. It fuzzed out. Yeah, hold it up and bring it in a little bit so we can see the title.
I have my
Okay.
I have my blurry screen on, so
Okay.
because I have this little guy with me today and I don't want him on the screen. So Philip Woke Up on Christmas Eve is about a fly, and he hibernates in the fall or goes into diapause, and he ends up being in Nana's Christmas tree. Nana isn't happy, and Philip is very happy. He thinks he's like the immigrant kid. He thinks this world is made for me, and decides to buzz off onto Nana's mazzacata cake. And Nana is very upset, and she comes up with a solution, which is actually very creative. She pops Philip onto a spoon, carries him outside, and Philip buzzes off into the winter night. That's very reflective of my childhood as an immigrant. And I hope children that do read this, or parents who read it to their children, understand that we don't always have to belong, and we won't always belong. And it is okay to say, I don't belong and I'm moving on. So that's kind of the message about self-esteem. And the second book is Baking Day at Bell's. If you are a horse person, if you are an animal lover, this is a very cute book It's written in rhyme, just like Philip is. And it is a book dedicated to my niece who loves her horse. She bakes for her horse. And so the back of the book does have a recipe for a horse biscuits, which is an original that her and I came up with. And the story talks about Belle, who's a very ambitious young lady of about 9 years old. And she bakes for her friends that are coming over, but her friends end up then helping her because the animals decided to cause chaos in her kitchen because Belle was not paying attention to them, which is again that message of we parents quite often don't pay attention to the softly calling children, and the animals were softly calling to Belle, showing interest in her baking day, and she chose to ignore them, and then there was chaos. The mouse in the book is the one that takes charge, and again, it's a story about self-esteem, speaking up when you need to be heard, and loving your pets and animals.
Wonderful.
Thank you. They are both available on Amazon, and I have also published them through the distributor Ingram Spark, and they can be purchased in bookstores. Aunties at this time does not have the books. I have been there one time, but I think it involves a little bit more perseverance or presence, should I say. Thank you.
Go. There you go. Thank you, Tar. Is it T-A-R or T-A-J? Taj or Tar?
It's T-A-R-J is my name. It's a very Finnish
Tar.
name.
Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Tarja, but it's very difficult to pronounce. So you're welcome to use Tara.
Tarja?
Yes.
Yeah.
Those sound great.
Yeah, I love it.
Do you have any links to put into the chat so we can take a look at them?
Sure, I will put my I can put my website on there, and you can find the links in the website for both.
Great,
links.
great.
It's a very simple link. My website is we're kind of nerdy in this house, and so I have my own domain, so it's Tarja@nebula.com, and I'll type it in there. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Well, Frank, you know what that means. You're up. Did you? Well, you're unmuted, but there's no sound, so maybe your volume is he's doing something.
His new book is about mimes.
No sound. Yeah, can't hear you.
You can now?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry about that.
That's
I didn't have my microphone plugged in. What a rookie mistake for a former podcaster to make.
That'll happen.
So you can see my book there on the background. It's coming out on February 14th. It is the fourth book in the Stefan Kopriva mystery series, which is itself a spinoff of my main series, the River City series. I thought it was pretty interesting to see the comedic ones with Detective Begonia that Chris was talking about, because they're all, set there in Spokane. And my experience has been that people love that. I've had a lot of people talk about enjoying the River City series because, I know where that gunfight happened in the book, or I know where that car chase, I know that alley that they ran through or whatever. It makes people happy. The Kopriva series is also set in River City as it's a spinoff. This is the fourth one, like I mentioned. It's the first one I've written since 2015. So getting back into the skin of the main character was pretty fun. It is a first-person private detective sort of book rather than the third-person, a little bit more distant and removed method of writing the River City books. This one's also a little bit more emotional in some ways than the others, although Steph is somewhat of an emotional guy. In this one, his mother, who abandoned him as a child, comes back into his life. And then, which you can imagine that would be an emotional enough experience, but that's not good enough for fiction. So he counters a betrayal and a murder very quickly, and that requires him to do some investigating. And I don't want to say any more because there's a couple of twists in there that people who betray and get murdered might not be the people you expect. So this is, if I count novellas, this will be my 52nd book coming out here in February. So just plodding right along. It was, like I said, pretty fun to jump back in, and I don't know how many other folks have been away from a character for a period of time and then revisited them, and it was 7 years. So it was a little nerve-wracking at first because you always wonder, have I lost the voice? Have I been away too long? And I didn't feel like that was the case at all, but I will let you be the judges of that.
I have a question. Did it feel like your character aged during that time? Or did you just kind of pick up where the character was?
It's a great question. I do put the River City series and then by extension the Copriva series in a real time and place. So like the River City series starts in 94, and the book I just finished the first draft of the 14th River City book takes place in 2010. So we're slowly catching up. This book is set in 2009, and the previous one was set in 2007. So there was a 2-year gap for him where there's a 7-year gap for me. So it's an interesting question, Chris, because you wonder, the changes I've gone through in 7 years, how will those filter into whatever changes he's gone through in 2 years? And in this case, they've been a good couple of years for him, and he had about a decade and a half of pretty terrible. So this has actually been pretty good for him up until I came back on the scene, and then they got pretty bad again.
Thanks, Frank. By the way, if you are on Facebook and you can go to the Writers Guild listings, you'll see a thing there where Frank, there's this outfit that gave out awards and recognition, and they picked 17 of his books for some of their stuff, and I about passed out when I saw that, but so that's kind of neat.
That's the Independent Fiction Alliance. The IFA, it's a new organization, so probably they don't know enough independent writers to include.
Yeah, but
more, I guess.
They picked on a good one.
Well, they picked about 75 titles from 21 and 22 that they felt represented the best of truly independent fiction, not an imprint of a New York publisher. They're calling themselves independent. So I'd encourage you, if you are independent, and that includes a small or even medium-sized publisher that falls under their definition of independent, check them out, because their entire goal is to support independent authors.
Yeah, I think probably this year I would also like to, we've already mentioned a couple of possible programs, but I think I would like to have one on connections with indie marketing things, because there's a couple of magazines that have whole big sections on indie produced books and stuff like that. So we'll try to get into that a little more. Thanks, Frank.
I have a question. Frank, could you put that organization into the chat?
I already did.
Thank you.
Okay, and let's see. I know that Alex is a reader. I don't think you published anything, Alex. He's actually turned off, but you can let me know if you've got a book you want to tell us about.
Oh no, I haven't written anything in a long time. I just read these days.
Oh, okay, thank you. I appreciate that. We need readers. We need readers. Otherwise, we wouldn't have writers. Okay, how about Tony? Tony's iPad. Okay. And we've got Eric last. Now, Eric has written, I don't know, 90,000 books. And so I'm not sure how he's going to pick something to talk about. He may or may not even be right there right this, although he's unmuted. Hey, Eric, you got something to share?
Sure. Yeah, right now I'm currently working on the 5th book in my Elfton, New York series, which is basically kind of like a parallel timeline to ours, but in this timeline, elves have revealed themselves to the people about 20 years ago, and they live side by side with humans in our modern society. And it kind of follows a investigative journalist who winds up, they call it elfing when somebody manifests their elf traits once they hit a certain point in their life.
Wow.
And she elfs live on television during a broadcast. So you can imagine the interest everybody has in this. And so and this whole series wound up being, I started it a year ago. I'm writing book 5 right now. And it started as a joke because it was mentioned, it was just a fictional book series in a different series that I wrote. And people thought, oh, that's funny, you know, it's like, you should write that. And so just as a joke, a pure joke, I actually wrote the first book, and it's the best-selling book that I've ever released.
Wow. I think elves are popular.
It just surprised me, you know, and so I'm writing as many as I can, as fast as I can, to capitalize on the hype of it. And the readers can't seem to get enough, and I like that. Makes me happy.
For those of you who may not be familiar with Eric, he is a superb marketer, and I dearly hope he provides us with some input throughout the year on some of these topics, because he's been, if it's happened, he's been there. So
Oh, I know all the things not to do now.
well, that's it. We got to have somebody go ahead of us and, you know, trip all the wires. So thank you.
Here, I'm gonna hit share screen for a second so I can show the
Oh,
covers.
sure, sure.
Okay, that was the first cover there, you know, for Elfton, New York intern. It went on to Recothy, Megas, and then to Transparency, which wound up being done in Bangkok. And that one, for some reason, is one of the favorites of my readers. And so I'm just going to continue on the tradition and write a couple more books in it.
All right. Yeah, Bangkok is very much one of those buzzwords these days. There's a lot of books kind of focused on Bangkok.
A lot of people don't realize that Bangkok is so much larger than even New York City.
Mm-hmm. Huge. Happens a lot over there in the East.
It's amazing.
Yep.
But that's really all I had to share was my latest work was working on that.
That's wonderful. I appreciate it. And again, everybody's websites that have, I think everyone who's spoken today about their books, their websites are on that site that I typed in there. So go ahead and head there and you'll be able to then follow up with people. It's a nice way. I primarily did all that so there'd be a handy list and people could say, I know where I can go to find so-and-so's, you know, and find it and go there. So it's, I'm an old, what do you call it? I started out being a secretary and a promotion person back in the 60s. And then I went on, and everywhere I've gone, I'm a nitpicker for keeping records and all that. So that's why I'm doing all this all over top of you folks, because I can't help it. That's my natural bent. So if you ever find any bit of information about awards, people, books, anything, send it to me and I'll try to put it up there. Well, we have about 5 minutes left. I did want to see about Kaleila's video again, since she found a way to run the sound. Why don't we go ahead and do that, and then we'll see if there's any last minute questions.
Okay, it says it's sharing sound. Can you guys hear it?
Nothing
Who
yet.
would believe
Yes.
fate and a wizard would visit the village whore? But that's what happened. And that meeting catapulted me onto a journey I'll never forget. Leaving behind all I've ever known, I hired on as a cook and huntress for a weary band of travelers. We trekked through forests and across steppes, avoiding wolves and demons, religious zealots, and brushes with the law. I had mistaken my companions for ordinary vagabonds, gamblers, and roadside charlatans, but they were not what they seemed. All of us had secrets in our past, compelling us to pass undetected. Soon my loyalties were torn between a banished nobleman and an exiled king, either of whom might shatter my heart, or lead to the ultimate betrayal. Clara's Journey by K.S. Wright, available wherever books are sold.
Right,
There it is.
Yay.
great. I have a question about the Adobe marker on that. Does that go
Uh-huh.
away eventually when, or does that?
It
always-
will. So this was just a first draft.
Okay,
And so some of the stuff, because my book is set in the Iron Age, is actually too modern. So I'm working with my videographer and my graphic designer to come up with new images. But I was just excited because this came in like yesterday or day before. And so I was like,
Oh,
woohoo.
wow, well, we're in luck then, right?
Yeah, so eventually it'll, there'll be a, clean, polished, nice version that doesn't have any of those markers.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, I'll be looking into seeing, I have lots of space on the website, so I'm thinking about investigating, putting in some videos that people have done and for their books, because they're short enough that they shouldn't take up a lot of space. And I've got about 8 gig. I didn't go for the huge, well, maybe I did. Maybe I went for, anyway, I've got some space for some stuff. Let me see. Do we have any last minute questions or comments before we wrap this up? We've got just a couple of minutes. Frank, you're muted.
I have one to Gail. That must be exciting to see your book do that.
Pardon? What did you say, Joyce?
I said, I think that has to be exciting. I said, I thought that's exciting to see how your book come into motion. That's
Good.
pretty neat.
Oh, yeah, it was really exciting. And it's been a process because the first part was choosing somebody to do the audio and then writing a script. And so, I mean, every little step is just, just a little bit closer and a little more exciting.
Mhm.
That's neat.
Well, I'm looking forward to having you give us a program on how to do that. So,
Yes.
What's involved. Frank, you had your hand up. You wanted to.
Yeah, I'm gonna put a link in the chat here. It's not book trailers, but I've been working to get the majority of my books out in audio.
Mhm.
And while some are published by Books in Motion there in Spokane, which is a great outfit, lousy royalties, but that's the way of that business. But real great people, and they do a bang up job. But I also use Authors Direct, if you're familiar with that, which allows you to basically handle everything yourself. And I've got about 20 titles up there now. So if you want to educate yourself a little bit on what it looks like and so forth, and I'd be happy to answer any questions, maybe at a future meeting if anybody's interested.
Yeah,
and if you're part of the,
I was going to say, yes, please.
And then if you're, Damon Zaw, he's been doing that for a long time. They're good. But if you're in this group, anybody in this group, if you see a title on that Authors Direct storefront of mine that you would like to try, and I'm happy to give anybody that's on the screen now a gift copy. The only way I can do that is through Spotify, is the way they're doing it now, but it's free to you basically, and so Spotify to listen to audiobooks. So just shoot me an email. I'll put my email in here too in case it's not available, and remind me that you're part of this group and tell me which title that you would like, and I'll send you the link.
And how does that service compare to like ACX as far as production goes?
Well, I haven't produced a book through them using narrators within the program. I've contacted my narrators and done all of that outside of it. But as the producer, I guess, or the person uploading it, it's pretty easy. I think it's a lot easier than ACX. And it's I think it's 80% versus 40 if you're exclusive and 25 if you're not with ACX. And they distribute wide, including to on Audible. So of course you're not getting as much from Audible as you would if you were going directly to Audible, but you're in about 40 other markets as well.
Right,
So
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, I've only ever used the ACX with their royalty share because I'm a penny pincher, and so I do the 40% like you were talking about. And the only other place that I've ever done, I've done a series with Tantor, and that was interesting as well. So I was just curious how yours compared.
Yeah, it might be a good topic sometime, Linda, audiobooks and different routes to getting there.
Definitely. Any other topics? Okay, so far we have audio books, we have how to do the video trailers, and I had another topic I wanted to talk about, fiction, just how it's spread out in so many different genres, the difference between literary and genre fiction. And there's like literary fiction, and then there's genre fiction, and maybe chat a little bit about that, but also these other things, the how-tos of the marketing end of things, and having your book and that out there where people can access it. So, and I think though that later this month, I'm doing one on, in 2 weeks, as a matter of fact, this month is going to be agents, how you identify and find agents. So anyone who's got input to that, you know, I would love to have you join us and add your 14 cents in there. I don't know where 14 came from, but more than 2 cents. And help us out. And also I'll be doing tons of research, and I have over time seen a lot of different things having to do with agents and finding them. We have many authors who are at that point where they want to try to get through to a small press at least, or a large press, one or the other, and they don't want to go the self-published route, so they're looking for an agent. So even your bad stories about what not to do because they almost ripped you off, that's a good one, because trust me, once we got the internet going and all this stuff going, we've got hundreds of people who call themselves agents, and you know, they're willing to help you with their book, with your book. Yep, they're willing to rip you off for sure. So, and they have no clue what they're doing, but they're going to tell you they're going to get you the world, and we want to steer away from them. So I hope you can make it on the 15th at 7 p.m. I will be sending out, you know, information about it. Meanwhile, thanks so much to everybody for coming. If there are no more questions or comments, if there are, please pipe up right now. Otherwise, we will say farewell for a short time. Okay?
Thank you for doing this, Linda.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Linda.
Bye.
Thanks, Linda. Bye.
If you
Bye-bye.
have anything at the end, you know, if you forgot, just put it in the thing. The chat will still be there for a bit. Okay?
Thanks, Linda.
Thank you. Bye. Bye, Alex. Bye, Eric. Bye, Sue. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Good to see you. Thanks, Eric.
Don't forget to end the recording.
Oh, I'll do that. But you can leave. You can go down there and say end. And do your own get her outer. Just trying to leave it so people can type into the thing.
Mhm.
Yeah. In your right-hand lower corner, you'll find an end button, which will be fine if you're in a hurry to get out of here. Eric may be sticking around for a while. That's very kind of you, Eric. We can have a chit chat. or not. Hey, Eric,
Hello.
I would love to have you do some stuff in the future. Have you had anything? I know that you're busy, and I know that you've got tons of stuff to do all the time.
Yeah, I messed up last time. I forgot which day it was and
Oh, it's so
messed up.
easy to do. So easy to do. I'm hoping, you've done so much with marketing and that and various pieces of it, but that sounds like a good one if you and Frank can come together and have maybe a discussion back and forth
Sure.
about these. That would be almost like a webinar, but it would just be the two of you kind of talking, and then we could have, I'm sure we'll have lots of questions. And then if you have anything you would like to cover about the process of doing, what do you call it? She just did one today. God, I'm losing my mind. I have so much language running around in my head. It's a wonder I don't have memory loss at this point. But trailers, I don't think of them as trailers. I think of them coming up front. Why would you be putting a trailer out in front of you? It's like the cart before the horse. But anyway, maybe that'll help me remember. But how to produce, have you ever tried to do that, or?
Oh yeah, I've done about 5 book trailers, but they
Okay.
don't really generate a lot unless you can get them
Yeah,
into some place that's going to put them in front of a lot of eyes.
right.
I mean,
Right.
just posting them on YouTube, which is what most authors do, it doesn't really bring any eyes to you because nobody's going to YouTube to try to find a book.
Right, right. The Nationals do a lot on Facebook, I know, because I get a lot of connections for that, and then I see they do a lot of they don't exactly, well, a little bit of trailer. I don't consider them very artistic trailers that they do usually. Sometimes it's just a notification and they talk about it for about
Right,
30
right.
seconds. But anyway, ooh, excuse me. So there's probably something we'd want to keep separate from the audio books. I think it can get too confusing for people.
Oh yeah, because the audiobooks can be really in depth in themselves.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. So, well, super. If you have if you come up with something for yourself that you'd rather, bring up at some time, just let me know. I should
Okay, that sounds
turn
great.
off the old